Hello and welcome to HINT, that's H-I-N-T, for Huberman Insight Neurotranslation. We're so glad you're here. Go ahead and like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing. All right, today we are diving deep into the science of attention. We're going to explore the real story behind ADHD and, maybe even more importantly, discover how the neuroscience behind it reveals some incredibly powerful, practical tools that can help anyone, yep, that means you, build better focus. Let's get right into it.
You know that feeling, right? You sit down, you're ready to work, and then poof, your mind is everywhere but where you need it to be. So why? Why is our focus so incredibly fragile sometimes? Well, to figure that out, we actually need to look at a condition where this fragility is the main event, ADHD. And trust me, it's probably not what you think.
Most of us hear ADHD and we just think easily distracted. But the truth is so much more interesting. People with ADHD can actually have this amazing ability to hyperfocus on things they find genuinely fascinating. So the problem isn't a lack of focus, it's a major challenge in controlling it. This can also pop up in weird ways, like having a tough time with the perception of time, or using what's called the pile system to stay organized, or even something as simple as struggling with working memory, like forgetting a phone number literally seconds after you hear it.
So, let's get to the core of it. What is ADHD really? Well, like we just said, it's not about having zero focus. It's about the challenge of controlling where that focus goes.
Fundamentally, ADHD has a really strong neurobiological and genetic component. We're talking about the core brain circuits, the actual wiring that's supposed to direct our attention, put the brakes on our impulses, and just manage all those day-to-day tasks. To really understand how that works, we need to look at how the brain is wired.
So, deep inside your brain, your attention is basically run by two main systems, or networks, that are supposed to be in constant communication with each other.
Think of these like two different operating systems for your brain. First, you've got the resting brain, which scientists call the default mode network. This is what's running when you're just zoning out, mind-wandering, not really doing anything in particular. Then you have the action brain, or the task network. This is the system that boots up when you're locked in on a specific goal-oriented activity, like studying or driving in traffic.
Okay, now this is the crucial part. In a typical brain, these two networks work like a seesaw. When your action brain is on, your resting brain is off. And when your resting brain is on, your action brain is off. They're what's called anti-correlated. But here's the thing, in the ADHD brain, that seesaw gets stuck. The two networks start firing at the same time, which creates this kind of neural static that makes it incredibly hard to focus on one thing. So what's supposed to be controlling this seesaw?
Well, the answer lies with a super powerful neuromodulator that acts like the brain's conductor, telling each network when it's their turn to play. And that conductor is dopamine.
Now, dopamine gets a reputation for just being about pleasure, but it's so much more than that. It is a key chemical for getting into a state of deep focus and motivation. When dopamine is released, it literally changes how your brain circuits are firing, narrowing your attention down into a tunnel and giving you that drive to go after a goal. I love this quote because it perfectly captures what dopamine does. It's the conductor, making sure that seesaw between the resting brain and the action brain is moving nice and smoothly.
And this brings us to the main point. The leading theory for ADHD is that the brain simply has lower baseline levels of dopamine. So, without a strong conductor waving the baton, those two networks, well, they can't stay in sync. They start firing together, and the ability to direct your focus just gets thrown off.
This low dopamine state also explains a really common behavior. That drive for stimulants, whether it's sugary snacks in kids, that third cup of coffee in the afternoon, or even prescription drugs, it can all be seen as a kind of self-medication. It's the brain instinctively searching for a way to crank up those dopamine levels, just enough to make focus possible.
Okay, so now that we've really dug into the why, let's get to the good stuff, the how. The science gives us some amazing strategies that can help literally anyone build a stronger, more resilient focus.
Look, improving focus isn't about finding one single magic bullet. It's really a multi-pronged approach. You've got pharmacological tools like prescription stimulants that directly boost dopamine. You've got dietary approaches using things like omega-3s. And what I think is the most exciting, you've got behavioral tools that let us directly train our brain's attention circuits, kind of like taking your focus to the gym.
Let's talk about one of those behavioral tools. But first, you have to understand this really weird glitch in our attention system called an attentional blink. So when you successfully spot something you're looking for, like finding Waldo in one of those pictures, your brain kind of briefly shuts off its attention.
For just a fraction of a second, you are essentially blind to any new information. This little blink is a huge reason we get distracted.
So how do we reduce these blinks and make our focus more solid? Well, research has found something pretty remarkable. A single 17-minute session of quiet interoception, which is just a fancy way of saying closing your eyes and paying attention to your internal state, like your own heartbeat or breath, can significantly and lastingly reduce how often those attentional blinks happen. Yeah, one session can start to rewire your brain for better focus. It's amazing.
Want something even more direct you can do? Like right now? Here's a super simple exercise to train your visual focus circuits. First, just move around for a minute or two. Get some of that fidgety energy out. Then, for 60 seconds, just stare intently at something close to you, like your thumb. After the minute is up, shift your gaze to a point way across the room and hold it there for another 60 seconds. That simple back and forth actively engages and strengthens the very circuits that control where you put your attention.
And here are 2 more awesome tools for your toolkit. First, try practicing what's called panoramic vision. Just consciously dilate your gaze and try to take in your entire environment at once. This simple shift in your vision can actually reduce those attentional blinks. And on the diet side of things, research shows that getting over 300 milligrams of the omega-3 DHA every day can give you a real, noticeable boost in your attention.
So you see, focus isn't some fixed trait that you either have or you don't. It's a skill. It's a set of brain circuits that you can train, you can modulate, and you can strengthen. The science is showing us that through simple, intentional practices, all of us have the power to build a more focused mind. So the only real question left is, how are you going to start training yours today?